it coming?
Oh, hey, it's going pretty great.
We have like a few minutes before presentation. Oh, maybe, let me make sure. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, that looks good. Do we look fabulous? Yeah, we look pretty fabulous.
Hello.
Hey, Alex.
I'm working on the social media assets for the party. How's the video going?
It's actually going really well. Do you want to see what we have so far? Okay, cool.
Yep, that's us. We revamped our mission statement last year. Sonia Renee Taylor told us to name the enemy, and so we did. But we're still the same old rad magpie doing the same kind of stuff. Well, sort of. And that's why you're here, right? To learn more about us and the cool stuff that we do? Great. I thought so. So, where to begin? Ah, yes, 2020. How can we talk about 2020 without first acknowledging that it was weird? Really, really weird. What it did give us for was time for reflection. You see, many of you have known us through many iterations. We've hosted Rad Studio 3 times, each time different from the last. We've had many employees and few. We created Cigaria and Coconut, taught girls how to make video games with Women Can Do and Girls Make Games. We partnered with UVM and Allostatic, sent a bunch of diverse folk to a queer science fiction conference in Wisconsin. But during this time, this I'm not going to say unprecedented. Everyone says unprecedented. Let's just stick with weird. Like I said, we got to reflecting in this weird time, and we realized that what we really wanted to do is hone in, refocus. And it's Rad Studio. Rad Studio was our flagship program, and now it is our #1 priority. For those of you who don't know what Rad Studio is an 11-week summer incubator program for college-age game developers. This is all fun stuff, right? College students hanging out, making a cool game demo over the summer. It's important to remember why we do this. And that's because things are still not great in our industry at large. Patriarchal white supremacy is still all over our industry. Whether it happened 15 years ago or today or hasn't quite surfaced yet, but you know something's fishy in that studio over there. We keep hearing the same stories of studios with terrible workplace cultures getting called out and called in. Our enemy has yet to be defeated. So yeah, that. And that's why we do what we do. Each year we work to make sure that the students we work with are walking into the industry with intentionality. Because for underrepresented creators, entering the video game industry is not as simple as entering the video game industry. We can only do so safely if our eyes are wide open, if we are aware of what is and is not acceptable. We need to enter with confidence and a keen eye for what our mental health is worth. And for those folks who wouldn't be considered underrepresented, they must be aware of the full scope of the problem and how they can be a positive force to change it. Last year, we had 15 students in the cohort. This year, we doubled that number. And just like last year, all 3 teams have created a trailer to show off their game. That's coming up. Sit tight. Each and every year, we send more of these people out into the world. Wave after wave of intentional developers that we believe will eventually lead to a sea change in this industry. Let's take a look at some of the stuff we do. For one, we work with Black River Innovation Campus to teach Girls Make Games, a 1-week summer camp that teaches middle school age girls how to make video games, and which I might add still has open enrollment for the next 2 weeks. And we also love working with Women Can Do, last time showing girls how to make a sprawling crowdsourced choose-your-own-adventure game. Production just finished up on the prototype of an app that we've been building with Dr. Ellen McGinnis and UVM. That's University of Vermont for the non-Vermonters around here. Project M Health is an app that utilizes biofeedback to diagnose depression and anxiety in children. It will eventually make the in-office diagnostic protocol that Ellen developed accessible to any clinician with a smartphone. And our prototype just entered clinical testing. All right, so before we go any further, as the executive director, I would be remiss. No, downright negligent if I failed to mention that tonight is in fact a fundraiser. Let's face it, we need money for this work, and it's made possible by the donations of generous people like you. No, like you. I'm looking right at you. I would like to start off then with a little challenge. Last year we raised our first $1,000 in 20 minutes. I think we can do better than that. How about we say 10 minutes? What do you say? Do you think we can get that on screen, please? Well, thank you, Space Productions. Looks like we are all ready to go. One more thing. This is how you donate. You can also find a link to donate on the Party Wiki and on the website. It's pretty much everywhere. We're trying to put it everywhere. So go on ahead and get one of those open. We'll wait. Okay, ready to go? Great. So let's start the clock now. Beautiful. And now for the moment that I'm sure many of you are here for, the Rad Studio team trailers from the 2021 cohort. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Perel, product owner and lead programmer for Chortling Chickadee, and I hope you enjoy our game.
Hello, my name is Alina, and I'm the lead artist on Chortling Chickadee.
Oh, hi. I'm Future You, and I did composition, sound design, and implemented the audio for Team Chickadee. I hope you enjoy the game.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I'm the team's AI programmer.
Hey there, my name is Jeremy and I was the game designer for Chortling Chickadee. I hope you enjoy our game.
Hi, I'm Camille Sanchez and I'm one of the level designers for Team Chortling Chickadee. I hope you enjoy our game.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Fabian and I did sound design and musical composition for High Tide.
Hey, I'm Megalolania and I did the narrative design and the writing for Team Chickadee's High Tide.
Hey everyone, we are Itty Bitty Kaiju Studios, the creators of TKT, Tiny Kaiju Terrarium. Here's a look at our team. To start things off, I'm Ray, the producer of the project, and also contributed as a composer and sound designer. I have a turtle named Tony, and he is unfortunately not kaiju-sized.
Hi, I'm Michael Davis, and I worked on the music composition and sound design, and I like big robots.
Hello, I'm Brad. I worked on system and UI design, and my favorite book series is The Maloran.
Hi everyone, my name is Martin, and I worked as a 3D artist, UI designer, and system designer for Tiny Kaiju Terrarium. And my favorite ice cream flavor is mocha.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm the narrative designer. I also worked on UI and systems design. My favorite video game of all time is Magic School Bus Explores the Solar System.
Hi, I'm Daniel Hartman, and I'm one of the programmers. My favorite episode of SpongeBob is episode 7A, Hall Monitor.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
Tylen, one of the other programmers, and my favorite kaiju is Mothra.
Hello, my name is Alexis. In TKT, I was the 2D and 3D artist as well as the concept artist, and I love hamsters.
Hello, my name is Isabella, and I was a 3D artist and animator on Tiny Kaiju Terrarium. A fun fact about me is that I have a giant inflatable dinosaur costume.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy our game.
Kaiju, one for me and one for you. 3, 4, Kaiju, hear them romp and hear them roar. 5, 6, Kaiju, give the world a little fix. Kaiju, 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 stomp the town with rolls and kicks. Plant your troubles in a pot, fill with soil to the top. Water it from up above, tiny bees for you to love. Build your world from hat to shoes, flora, fauna, pick and choose. Place a city, watch it hatch. Tiny monsters love to smash. Cozy creatures grow and thrive, help their smiles come alive. Now friends have outgrown their homes, give more space for them to roam. Study, scribble, and explore, all their tastes and quirks galore. Fairy stories in your book, pour some tea and have a look. 1, 2, Kaiju, one for me and one for you. 3, 4, Kaiju, hear them romp and hear them roar. 5, 6, Kaiju, give the world a little fix. Kaiju, 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 crush the city, learn their tricks.
Hey, welcome back. Almost done. Just before you go, I'd like to give you a little tour of how this party works. So basically, we've got different things going on in the different breakout rooms of this Zoom call. First, we have the salon. That's where you go to attend high-minded talks and discussions by the Rad Magpie executives, like myself. Then we've got where our lovely Rad Studio 2021 cohort will be boothing their game, Kaiju 740, Chortling Chickadee at 8, and Pink Soul Crab at 8:30. They'll show off brief presentations on their games and sit for a short Q&A. Don't forget, you can check out the website to see the agenda at any time. No need to take a screenshot or anything. Oh, that might not be a bad idea. And then, guess what? We splurged for the Jackbox Party Pack this year. That's right. Head on over to join in on some online games. Games will be starting up at random intervals, so you can jump in whenever. And don't worry, it's for all skill levels. And there are prizes on the line. Oh, and you've also got that bingo card. So travel around to fill it up, then show a photo or a screenshot of your winning card to the front porch greeter. Or just turn your camera on for a few seconds and hold it up. If you get lost or can't remember what to do, head to party.radmagpie.org, or you can always check back to the front porch and our lovely greeter will help you. Now, how do you move around? Easy! Zoom got a beautiful update recently and it's made it easier than ever. You simply click down here, you choose the room you want to join and click join. Easy. If you feel like moving on, just go back here. Or you can click leave at the bottom of the screen and choose leave room. One more thing before I wrap this up. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. We would not be here without your support. No, really. And I want to give a special shout out to a couple of foundations that did a lot to make Rad Studio Scholarship Fund a reality this year. Gisela Gamper of the Creative Connections Art Fund, and a few donors who would prefer to remain anonymous, but you know who you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's all I got, folks, so get out of here already. Go have some fun. So what do you think?
They're gonna love it.
Yay! Hello, everybody. It's Dana in real life again, coming at you live. So, what did we get to? 7:16. Okay, that's pretty good. I think that's like really, really nice start. What I do want to say is, ideally, we want to go even higher than that tonight. So let's just pick a big old beautiful number and shoot for it, and let's see how far we get. So, can we go ahead and upgrade the donation tracker to a number that's a little bigger than $1,000, maybe? Here we go. Okay, new goal for tonight. Okay, everybody, grab your pocketbooks, grab your Venmos, grab your PayPals, because it's coming at you. And I think that to make it a little more fun, we want to add something to spice it up a little bit. So we came up with a new game this year that we want to share with you guys. So reveal. All right. What we have here is our beautiful art wall. So what we've got underneath here is a gorgeous one-of-a-kind print by our friend Thea Heck. And then we put all this cuteness right on top. Now you might notice that the cuteness on top is cut into a ton of tiny little segments, right? So this means that every single time that you donate, we're going to remove one of these sections. We're going to pick which one. Okay, so you donate, we remove a section. And so the beautiful picture underneath is going to get more and more revealed as we go. So remember, there's two different ways to donate, PayPal and Venmo. And something to make it a little spicier, a little more fun, is that quite a few of these over here are actually, they have prizes attached to them. So if you donate, we'll take one of these off and we'll see what prize you get. It's some sort of very cool Rad Magpie prize. It is an actual object. So when you donate, make sure if you're donating through PayPal that you choose to include your address if you want to be eligible for a prize, because it is a real thing that we need to send to you. And if you're going to go do it through Venmo, make sure that you include your email. I'd say probably do it as a private donation and include your email when you do that. Then we'll reach out to you and get your address. If you Venmo us and you do not include your address or your email, we cannot get you a prize. We have no way of getting a hold of you, okay? One more thing I want to say about Venmo that's a little tricky. If you look for Rad Magpie at the very top, it'll say either person or business. Make sure you click business. Otherwise, we're not going to show up. Okay, so that's the art wall. It's going to be streaming as a picture-in-picture all night on the Twitch. It's also going to be here in the main room for you if you want to come and just take a look at how it's going. And yeah, so keep on donating. Let's try to get as much of this uncovered as we can. And that's it. So we're just about to go into the first part of our agenda. We've got in the salon, we're going to open the breakout rooms. We've got in the salon, we've got me talking about Financial Sustainability, a Rebuttal. We've got Team Kaijuwu up first at the Rad Studio booth. We're also going to be opening up trivia and Jackbox games. So all those breakout rooms should be opening just about now. And that's it. I'll see you over at the salon.
Yeah, sorry about that. Got things mixed up. Yeah. My clock just hit 7:30, so Ray or whoever is running the Team Kaiju presentation, I'm gonna let you take over.
Okie dokie. Hello, and welcome to Itty Bitty Kaiju Studios. I'm your host, Ray, and today we'll be taking a look at Tiny Kaiju Terrariums. Just a little rundown of our game. TKT, Tiny Kaiju Terrarium, is a 3D terrarium building game where players care for baby kaiju and keep their enclosed ecosystems alive and thriving, simulating the feeling of a real terrarium. I'll send a link of it in chat for everyone, and I will also ping one of my programmers to see if it's working, because it is not on my end. Unless someone else would like to try it out, because I have no idea. I'm just getting an error screen for me.
It's working on my end.
Oh, really? Interesting. I might have to switch browsers then. Unless, Lexi, if you're able to. You're like really quiet. Do you mind saying that again?
Oh, sorry, I don't have certain.
Okay, that's all right. This is odd. Here, let me show everyone what I'm seeing. Actually, you know what? That's not very fun. It's not. Okay. I'm getting Michael, would you mind sharing, or Steve?
It's working for me on Chrome.
Awesome. I have tried Chrome and Microsoft Edge because that's the only other browser I have. I know it's embarrassing. But would you mind sharing? Because I'm getting refused to connect on both.
Can folks see that?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
We can't hear it, though.
It's because I muted it.
We still can't hear it.
Interesting.
Did you click share audio when sharing?
There we go.
Awesome. It's a little loud. But
how's that?
Change the brand. If
books, and I had this like really big ambitious plan for what I was going to do, and then over the course of like a few months later, I completely changed what I decided I wanted to do. So that's what we're here for. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Where are you guys? Go. All right, does everybody see my slide deck? Zoom is a little weird. Okay, awesome, thank you. Okay, so, hey guys, welcome. I'm Dana. I'm the Executive Director of Red Magpie. And again, this is my rebuttal to the talk that I gave last year. So here I am. I also work at Champlain as an adjunct professor.
Dana's giving a presentation on financial
as a refresher for people who may be new to us or people who have known us for a while, we have a few different areas that we've always wanted to cover as Rad Magpie. So Rad Jams, Rad Studio, and Rad Media. And we started right off the gate wanting to do all of this stuff. Rad Jams was what we called the programming for the younger kids. So that's like when we work with Black River Innovation Campus to teach girls make games. We were offering workshops, lots of summer camps, lots of cute stuff like that. Rad Studio, as y'all heard about a lot, we've been doing again since like day one a few years ago. And that is geared towards college age game devs. And that is generally just our summer program. And then Rad Media is our in-house studio. So we would do, sometimes we would make our own stuff, like when we made Cigaria the first year, but more recently, what we've been doing is taking in contracts and then hiring students, hiring local people to help us fulfill the contracts. So we've got the younger kids stuff, Rad Studio, and then the contracts in the studio. And then lastly, fundraising, business development, like that like just general pillar of how you make a nonprofit run. And this was, we were spreading all of our energy to all of these things, basically since day one for the past 3 or 4 years. A few statistics about us. We are 501c3 certified, which happened a couple years ago. Founded in 2018, 2 years ago. And our annual operating budget is about $250,000 a year at this point. So how do we get there? So I like to say this is a story in 3 parts. And again, what you heard last year was the second part. So 2019, the theme was take every half-baked idea and just run as fast as you can at it. 2020, think like a business and grow. 2021, hone in, practice abundance. And that's the stage we're in right now. All right, so 2019, the start. This is what we try to do. We had a lot of ideas, and we just went for it. What happened was this, really. Like, we didn't really do a lot of fundraising. We had this big, beautiful plan for these summer camps. We literally just pulled the plug on them like a few weeks before we were going to do them. Rad Studio was like not that great. And Sigiriya, which I helmed, by the way, so I don't feel bad saying this, really didn't pan out the way it was supposed to. So this is where we were at, and it was like a painful year. This to me is what happens when you try to do everything at exactly the same time. What do we learn from it? Oh, and it was also very expensive, right? This wasn't like, oh, whoopsie, like it was also like, ouch, that cost a lot of money. This is going to be hard to recover from. One of the biggest things we started doing after that, we decided that we're going to do postmortems for literally everything. So that was the first year that we just we're like, oh my God, what just happened? That was like such a disaster all the way around. How can we learn? How can we keep this from happening again? So that was the year that we started like a very robust postmortem process for literally everything. And we're like we do it every single time for like everything. And it has been enormously helpful for us. And what I mean by postmortem, I guess I should say for people who didn't come from game development, it's just you look back on what you did. You look back on all of your processes. You look back on the product that you ended up with, and you really like dig into like what went wrong, what could go right, and what you can do better next time. So this was like interviews, surveys, all kinds of stuff, and we learned a lot from doing that. The big takeaways. For one, hiring is very important, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. Don't grow too big too fast. Because that links directly into number 2, which is oversight and expectations. It's when you grow really fast and you suddenly have so much to do. I think we got up to 15 employees at one point. You're like, oh my God, please, we need more people to do all this work that we just created for ourselves. And what ends up happening is you hire people and you just pray that they can read your mind, and that they know exactly what you need and what you want. But like that doesn't happen. So you need intense management for new people. Like you really need to put in a ton of time in order to make sure that they really get onboarded correctly and they really know what you need and how they're supposed to contribute to the company. But doing it any faster than that, like not taking your time, is just a recipe for disaster, because it's not enough to hire people. It's not even enough to hire really great people. You need to have the energy and the time in order to manage them and let them know what their expectations are. Lastly, under promise, over deliver. It's so simple, but like so important. Like, if you feel yourself getting too excited, like rein it in. Like, it's so much better to wow somebody by going above and beyond than to promise something and then not be able to follow through with it because you just had too many big ideas at the same time. So that was a hard way to learn those lessons, but that I'd say would be the 2019 lessons. Yeah, I'm just gonna put that on the screen and then keep going. Okay. So the big thing, how can we learn from our mistakes and be more intentional moving forward? That was what spurred the next stage, which is what I call the think like a business stage. So after that, we spent a lot of time together, just like we had an executive retreat. We set intentions. We came up with our shared value statement, our shared mission. We talked about like all our hopes and dreams for the organization. I mean, we really, instead of flying in 1,000 different directions, we tried to do the work to be like, well, okay, we can't do 1,000 things. What do we really want to do? So we did quite a bit of that. And then, like I said, like last year, the theme was think like a business. And this is the presentation I gave last year. This is where I was at last year. This is where I thought we should go. What that meant was looking at those different segments and thinking critically, like, okay, how can we grow each one of those separate segments separately? Setting goals for each of those segments separately. So we had the Rad Jams for the kids. We had Rad Studio for college students. We have Rad Media, our in-house contracting business. So I literally had like a 50-page document, which was just all of the goals for all those different sections, and getting really intentional about creating like income targets, participation targets, just targets, right? Because it felt like, okay, if we get like really specific about what we want to target, then we can get there. That's how we're going to get there, is if we get really specific instead of doing this like haphazard approach. I wanted to diversify our income sources, because the more financial sustainability you really, especially as a nonprofit, obviously you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So the more steady sources of income I could help create, the healthier our organization was going to be for a long time. All right, so before I get to that, so just to recap, from the haphazard, just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks approach, to now let's get like really specific, set goals for everything, different approach. What happened, right? So we got incredibly intentional. We were doing postmortems, we were having retreats, we were setting all these goals, writing all these documents, working really hard. What happened? Okay. Frankly, it was okay. Like, we did it. We delivered. The stuff we were delivering was really good. But there was another issue that we were like very tired all the time. Very stressed out because we were still kind of doing the same thing. We were still doing like 17 different things, except for now we were being very intentional and like measured about it. But it still was too much. And on top of that, it oftentimes felt forced. Like we didn't always feel inspired to do the work. It would just be, well, we set this goal like 6 months ago. I guess let's just like really like push at it and like see what comes of it. So it still wasn't working. Like this still wasn't working for us. And so the next stage, what if there was another way? And that's, I'm just taking a look because I feel like I could talk forever. Oh yeah, I'm good. Okay. What if we can do it another way and have a happy life and succeed, but not just grind all the time in every direction? Yeah. Can we just take a little nap right here and still be happy and do well? So the answer, like I mentioned before in the presentation, was to stop trying to do everything. And this was informed by a lot of stuff. It was informed by the fact that we were tired, of course. It was also informed by a lot of thinking we had been doing as an organization about like, what is the purpose of a nonprofit? Reading like a really great book that I forgot to write down because I didn't think I was going to reference it in this, but doing a lot of reading about like the purpose of a nonprofit should be to serve the mission. It's not a business. A business, we can't think like a business. A business exists on this planet to make money, right? And to succeed in and of itself. Like, that's the reason. The reason is to make money, to scale, to grow. Last year, I was thinking a lot along those lines. Like, I wanted to scale. I wanted to grow. I wanted to make this a nonprofit that could like reliably employ people, like people that I really care about for a long time. But that is not the purpose of a nonprofit, right? That is a purpose of a business. A business's purpose is to become sustainable so it can employ people for a long time and make money. The purpose of a nonprofit is to serve the mission. And that is hugely, that is, when you think about it that way, it really, really changes your perspective. Suddenly it's like, well, why are we doing all this stuff? Is this really the stuff that best serves the mission? Instead, doing a lot of research and looking at other contemporary organizations, we saw a lot of really cool organizations that were doing a lot of the stuff that we wanted to do. Like there are, I think it was actually Riot Games. They had just opened up a fund with a lot of money, way more money than we have, to support game developers of color. So it's basically a fund that you can apply to if you're a game dev of color, and they might give you a bunch of money to make your game. They have a lot more money than we do. And then there's like the Pixels. They're doing a ton of work on supporting people that are already in the industry, but want underrepresented people that are already in the industry but want support. So looking at it that way and being like, all right, well, what already exists in our network and how can we best contribute to our mission, gave so much clarity. And that's when we realized, we're like, the thing that we do that like nobody else really does, and that is Rad Studio. Like that's supporting college students shaking my head. Underrepresented college students do not get enough support in game development programs in college. They just straight up don't. It's just an issue that is not addressed nearly enough. You got a couple amazing faculty probably in there that are like, this is an issue, we need to deal with it. But for the majority, colleges tend to treat game development like it is an industry created within a vacuum, within a bubble. So you're only there to learn your technical skills. It's only instrumentalist. You learn technical skills. We're just going to pretend like racism and sexism and stuff like that isn't an issue. And we're not going to deal with it. So that for us is how we can make the impact. It's the niche that hasn't been filled yet. And it's something that our particular group of people are best equipped to do, to address. So that's how we came to hone in. That's how we picked. We said, you know what? Screw all that other stuff. Let's stop just grinding and hustling so much to make that other stuff happen. Like it's distracting. It's distracting and it's tiring. Like let's lean in to the part of the mission where we can best make an impact. And I also mentioned, it doesn't mean that when people come to us with really cool opportunities, we say no, because doing Rad Studio means we do have more time. We're very, very busy in the summer. It is a year-round endeavor, planning and executing it, but it doesn't take as much time in the spring and fall, especially. So when people come to us with very cool things, like we keep working with UVM, with Dr. Ellen McGinnis and Ryan McGinnis, Allostatic, or when Make-A-Wish came last year, like those are awesome opportunities. Or Black River Innovation Campus, they just hired us to make a Girls Make Games happening next week. When those opportunities come up, it's like, oh, hell yeah, thank you. Thank you for hiring us. Thank you for giving us money because that helps us with our mission of Rad Studio. It really does. And not only that, every time a cool project like that comes along, we get to hire other people too. So when we're building an app or doing Girls Make Games, we get to hire other people that we really like. So that's sort of like my caveat. Like when opportunities come to us that are great, we take them, but we're not hustling to try to make it happen. We're just trying to follow the flow a little better. So where does that leave us? Okay, so the new guideposts: drop the made-up pressure of constant capitalist expansion and striving. Yes, indeed. This idea that you must always be growing, you must always be, you know, like expanding your spending by like this much every year, that shows growth. You must always be expanding your programmatic offerings, whatever. We just had to drop that. Like what is that? Where did that even come from? I don't know. But we definitely felt it, and we don't anymore. It's like, screw it. No, that's not the point. Like the point isn't to always be doing more. The point is to be doing the right thing. Do the thing that your loyal employees want and the market wants. And I said market like it's a business, but it kind of is. And this is what I was just saying, like what best serves the mission? What does the mission want us to do? And also I say loyal employees, like the people that have been with Rad Magpie since day one, like they have a really amazing sense of what we should be doing. And their heart will kind of guide us in the right direction too. And that was absolutely true of us. What we the kind of work we naturally felt called to do was also a really great indicator of where we should be pointing our attention. And lastly, once you find that thing, do that thing really well. And don't do anything else until you do that one thing really well. Like I do believe that in the future, Rad Magpie will expand to do other things besides Rad Studio. We have so many ideas. But it's just, we're not going to do that right now. Like we're going to wait until we feel like we've got it, until we feel like we've got it at the place we want it to be. And then if we feel called to go do something else, then we'll go do something else. This isn't a forever promise, but it is a commitment for right now. Believe in abundance. Oh, yeah. So, this is kind of a hard one, but I guess this is something we all should probably practice in all our lives all the time. But it's very difficult when you run a nonprofit. It can be really scary because I think anyone who started a small business or a nonprofit will understand this because there's money involved and people's livelihoods, the way that people pay rent and eat food. So it can be really scary. And a lot of that grinding and striving and pushing in a million different directions was based out of fear. I mean, it really truly was, if you think about it. It was fear that if we didn't hustle and make it happen, like push as hard as we can, then it just wouldn't happen, But that's just like not truly how the universe works. And I truly believe that if we're doing the right thing, if we're doing the thing that is helping people and pushing the mission forward, we won't have a problem. And it's sort of magical because we haven't. We've been here for 3 years now, which I think is pretty freaking awesome. So yeah, it's a practice. It's a practical mindset of believing that there's plenty, that we're going to do great, that we're going to do fine, that there's more than enough money and resources for us, and stop planning our work and our hustle around the fear that if we don't, that there won't be enough. So yeah, that's the new, I'm going to print that out and hang it on the wall because that's what we're trying to live by now. Oh, yeah. Nope. Canceled. Canceled that. Results so far. New partners are reaching out. We grew our key offering, Rad Studio. We doubled it because we were focusing on it. And our Rad Studio income grew from 800%, which to me is, for financial sustainability, it's just amazing. Like it just means that we are finding new avenues to keep the money coming in reliably and comfortably. And we feel better. Like these are our lives, you know, like we deserve to feel good at our jobs, and we do now. And I got 2 minutes, so I'm just flawless at timing things. That's it, everybody. I haven't seen your faces in a while, so I'm gonna come back over here. I felt like I didn't know if I was presenting to anyone. Thank you so much for coming. I didn't leave any time for questions, but if you wanted to chat or ask me, thank you, Robin, for the claps. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming.
The spark again, and make up for things that I wasn't able to learn. And I feel like this program definitely like prepared me better for, you know, looking into like what I want to actually do in my career, and not look at things too too strictly, because oh man.
Oh, good.
I might have to think about it.
That's okay. I got the point.
Yeah.
I feel like it has helped you gain a new perspective on your career.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's all the time we have left for this breakout room. We're going to start a 5-minute break. If you're following along on the stream, I think that this is the time for that.
musical spirits scattered across the land that have different abilities tied to each of their instruments.
How's the volume level?
Seems pretty good on my end. Should I narrate over what's going on?
Yeah, you can talk about like some of the narrative elements.
Oh, so here at the start of the game, we're getting introduced to the first spirit in the game, and in this direct dialogue interaction, we're getting introduced to the sort of premise of what the world is and what's going to be going on when we start the early parts of the game coming here. So there mentioned that we're going to be traversing in the pavilion, and that it is going to be a collection sort of game where you're going to be gathering the different characters of the game in order to progress.
Okay, do you want to talk a little bit about the level?
Yes. So level here.
Yeah. I got this. So the first part of the level goes into a puzzle where you'll be collecting smaller spirits throughout this area that will allow you to basically understand the movement part of the controls, as well as unlock another spirit that will give you a new movement control that allows you to progress to the next parts of the level. When you collect the third one, you get, which in this case is the violin spirit. If you want to get redirected to the break. And once again, it would go into the narrative part.
The music in the game is scored to, yes, Akili's very, very professional. He scored all the music to time with both the actions of the player as they navigate around the world. So now that we have the ability to jump from the violin spirit, as that's its power, connected to the pavilion, when we jump in the game.
And I believe this part would now lead you to two crossways. Well, you'll find as one of the ways would lead to not allowing you to cross, while this other one you'd be able to jump past. But then if you tried to go back, you would be unable to do so due to not being able to reach it. So you go on to another puzzle down this way, which uses this sort of like a Simon Says puzzle, where you'd have to follow the specific notes that the spirit on sort of the hill would go by, and when doing it correctly, it would allow you to be able to interact with the spirit once completing the puzzle. So I think after this one, you'll see the spirit as it begins to come down, which cause you to interact, and once again, you'd be able to talk to unlock a new control. So now that you've gotten the new control, it now gives you ability to combine both of these movements in order to make your way back up to the split paths that you were in before. And now that you have all the different movements, you're able to combine it to get past the last part of the level, which is sort of like an obstacle course that forces you to have to combine the different movements to utilize it in a way that you can complete the course. As it's separated into two parts where there's a platform in between, which makes it sort of easier for the player to not have to go through the whole thing without making an accidental mistake or two. And I suppose if Aiden, you have anything else you want to include? Or anybody else in the group?
Do we have Jen in here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Do you want to talk about the art?
Yeah, so we kind of based the art off a number of different things, but we ended up going with something that was mostly cool tones and just cute in feeling. We wanted it to feel like a mystical forest environment that was just comfortable to be in. And we did that through our color palette, and we decided to use a mix of 3D and 2D assets to kind of give it the cutesy vibe. So super simplistic trees and just environment assets in general, combined with the 2D sprites.
So we have about
10 minutes left for y'all. I think it would be a good time now to open for some questions from folks in the room. If anyone has any questions. If not, I'll start throwing some at you.
Hi. What were some of the features you were really excited about that you had to cut for this game?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. There was a lot of things associated with the movement and the movement programming that I had been working on to just make the player character feel a lot more dynamic in the world. And a lot of that had to be cut for time. There was also some particle effects and like things to just really smooth out the whole experience that would have been really cool to have in the game, but just we didn't have the time. Like the violin, when you first meet it, I was working for a bit trying to make a explosion of notes that it would come out of, but it just that didn't have the time, so it just appears there for you.
For me, I also sort of feel that some more stuff, if we had more time, could have simply been implemented for like puzzles that weren't complicated or like highly needed a lot of programming, but could have just been fun for the player to explore through the level, which I felt was sort of limited by time. But if there was more time, I felt I could have also included.
We also really wanted to play around with what was possible between programming and sound, and really get that reactive audio to your movement. But with me as the only sole programmer, with some help from Aiden and Seamus, we didn't really have the bandwidth to go very deep, but we still had fun with it.
One feature that we cut early was bumping, where like your dash. I had been hoping that it would have the ability to push obstacles around, to clear pathways or to move platforms into position for jumping around. And that we cut that in like the second week? I don't know.
Yeah,
it was fast.
We cut it pretty fast, and there was a lot of headaches that existed with physics while we were using physics that thankfully were resolved. But yeah, that the bumping had to go.
Yeah, it's definitely always an exercise in scope, this project. And that's why, we have a workshop early on that's like, hey, folks, here's how you want to scope your project because you've got 11 weeks and you're going to have to start cutting features pretty fast. So yeah, that was a great question because with such a short turnaround time like this, there are always tons and tons of features that you want to include that just don't make it in. I did see another question in the chat, which was, what was the hardest mechanic to implement? So I'd love to hear an answer for that one.
I think I can actually heavily answer this, but Aiden and Grady, you might feel a little different. But I feel the jumping and a lot of there's also mainly a lot of the jumping I think was problematic. Not just because of to get it to work, but also there are problems with the terrain in the jumping, which caused complications, which I felt probably was a hard thing for, I think, Grady and Aiden to deal with. But you might have different opinions on this.
What do you think, Aiden?
It all the movement things. It's simple. It's just jumping. It's just like moving a little bit faster, and then it's like, oh, that slope is on a weird angle that you can walk on, and now you're out of bounds. So, yeah, there was a lot of things. Oh, there was the 1 week where I tried to get a little bit of padding on the jump timing, and it just made it so that you could just jump as much as you wanted. There was a lot of things with the movement that were broken throughout the process of the development cycle. But it was just a lot of iteration to figure out what worked and what would continue to work for the what we needed for the game.
I think part of it too was that it was like a new terrain tool that I don't know if you guys really have worked with too much before. So that probably also brought some complications to figuring the movement out.
Yeah, we put a lot of time into the player controller because we know it's pretty integral to the player experience. So making sure that was solid was really important to us. I also had a lot of headache trying to make sure all of our game state, like the underlying architecture, was set up correctly so that you could switch between scenes going to that dialogue and back whenever you wanted without messing up the state of the game at all. But that worked out pretty well. So
yeah, it's never just get the movement in, right? It's always get the movement in and then fix the movement for 3 weeks, or 11. But it does seem like it turned out pretty smooth for you all, so that's great. Another question that I really want to hear an answer from, because I have a little bit of an inkling, is was the music mixed with movement a core part of your original idea? I'd love to hear sort of some of the inspiration behind that.
That was the original prompt for the game idea.
Yeah, that was that, as Aiden said, that was the original prompt for the game idea, and that sort of carried through the whole game, obviously causing some problems as we realized the issues it would bring up in implementation, to put it politely. But yeah, we got through it.
Play and pause on. It's like it's its own weird programming thing you have to work on the back end for.
It was really good for a lot of us because we don't always get to work with audio or sound right from the get-go. So having Achilles right in the design process from the beginning and being able to implement stuff right away was a great experience.
Yeah, and vice versa for me too. Like, I don't usually get to work with the development team until usually later in the process.
It's all a new experience, and it was a good experience.
Really, actually, really nice having that strong musical connection very early in the development process, because that sort of informed a lot of the other decisions we made along the way with the types of mechanics we chose for the game and the way the narrative would roll out. That was because we had this strong music mechanic tie that we wanted to have from the very beginning. We were able to take those ideas and connect them to the other parts of the game by choosing mechanics that felt like they connected with the type of music that we wanted to play, or having the different spirits be direct characters to represent the different instruments. So it was really allowed for the entire game to grow from this one idea.
And that sort of speaks to the question that just popped up from Jade in the chat here about the cohesion in your game, which I agree is really strong. We've got just a minute left before we wrap up here, but is there anyone who'd like to speak to sort of how you had that kind of creative direction stay so strong?
Jen, do you want to talk about how the artists work together?
Yeah, I was just going to get into that. So one thing that really helped us is that we kind of decided from the get-go the vibe that we wanted our game to have and exactly how we were going to achieve it. So we decided very early on that we were going to use a mix of kind of lower poly or just simpler shape 3D and 2D sprites. And we came up with a color palette that everyone stuck to really well. We, the whole time, just kind of iterated on our process. So people would send their designs, and they'd get critique for them, so that all of the artists were kind of in communication. And it just really helped everyone be super satisfied with the way that it came out.
And from an audio perspective, for example, I think probably the most closely tied things in terms of the audio are the various character themes. And for those, I took like just one like small line of music, and I asked the narrative designers for basically their characterizations of every character. Based like out of those, I made these 3 separate character themes that are, basically in a way customized to each character, as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be character themes. But yeah, so it was, in general, it was a lot of just tight cooperation between sort of different departments and making sure everybody knew what was going on.
Awesome work. Just shout out to all of Team Pink Soul Crab. This game came out awesome. And for the guests in the group, as a reminder that Spirit Song and all of the other games, you can find them on our party website. So definitely click through, play them. You can play them right in your browser without downloading. So give those a look. I'm going to have to pop out of this room because we have another whole half hour of shenanigans to get up to. You all can stay in here and mingle or hop to your next room. It's up to you. But yeah, one more big thank you to the team. You guys rock.
Welcome back to the main room, everyone. What's happening here? I didn't expect you all back
this?
to
It looks like our mysterious figure was the bird this whole time, and now they're going rogue with a dance party for you? Hold on. I mean, I'm being told by the Birds Associates that they really want us to reach our goal, and they will keep dancing as long as people keep donating. We're going to put about a minute on the clock. Don't let that bird down now. Donate to add time and keep that bird dancing.
Oh, Donovan, this is what you were up to. Oh, I see. Honestly, I really wasn't expecting the costume. This is great.
I love it.
Can we make requests on what dances we make Donovan do?
Feel free to enjoy with the other booths we have going on, and keep enjoying the party. And don't forget to keep the bird dancing. Look at him go! Look at him dance!
You in the right place? Hi, everyone. I am Maggie, and I'm going to be giving a presentation. Let me share my screen really quick. Okay, can everybody see this okay? So today I will be talking about our Rad Studio mentorship and a little bit about narrative design too. So what do those things have to do with each other? Well, I was the narrative design mentor for Rad Studio. So that's sort of it, right? So, hello, I'm Mackie. I am the communications director here at Rad Magpie. So yeah, I'm going to be going over mentorship and then a little bit about environmental storytelling, which is one of the workshops that I gave with the narrative design students. So first, I'm going to really quick go over what our Rad Studio mentorship model was like, because we do reach our students on a variety of levels with our mentorship, doing a couple different things. So first up, we have our team coaches. For each team, they're assigned one coach who works for them throughout the summer and gets their hands a little bit more dirty working with the teams, making sure they have all the support they need, answering any questions they have, and being there sort of one-on-one throughout the summer. We also have workshops and visiting mentors. I recognize some in this room right now. So these are folks who pop in once or twice during the summer to give a more intensive workshop on a specific subject. And then this year we introduced discipline-specific mentors or specialist mentors. So why did we add in this third branch? Basically, we wanted to have more support for folks in fields and disciplines that the exec staff here isn't quite as well versed with. So for instance, this year we got a ton of audio specialists, which was really, really cool. But me and Megan and Dana don't really know too much about audio. So, hello. So we had to hire some support from our community. And this also allowed us to give the students a little bit more cross-team mingling. So normally we notice that each team kind of gets a little bit siloed. So we wanted to provide an opportunity for folks to work with students who aren't on their own team and may share some interest with them working in the same field. So this year's specialist mentors, this is our lineup. So as you can see, there is a little bit of overlap with our coaching. So Megan, Dana, and Willie were our team coaches that worked throughout the summer with these teams. And then the rest of the folks you can see on the screen there, we all popped in once a week to meet with our discipline groups. And so with these weekly meetings, we allowed the students to choose which disciplines to work with. So you didn't need to be an expert in any particular field to join the meetings. Anyone who expressed interest was welcome to go. And each week was a little bit different too. So these meetings could be just checking in, seeing how the projects are going, maybe doing some troubleshooting with an issue that's coming up, talking about the industry at large, or giving presentations. So what I'm going to be sharing with you in a little bit is a piece of one of the presentations that I gave. Each week and each group had a really different and unique vibe, which is something that we learned when we had our mentor postmortem last week. I think it's really interesting that when you get a group of narrative designers together, it's a little bit of a different energy than when you get a group of audio designers together. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so in these meetings, like I said, I gave several presentations because the narrative group was really interested in doing some deep dives on particular subjects. There was a lot of interest in more foundational skills for narrative because there were a lot of students who were just trying out. So I got to share a lot of more foundational knowledge. So with this one, I would consider this like a little hors d'oeuvre. Sorry if my computer's picking up the sirens there. But yeah, this is a presentation that I had given in a 45-minute session, and now I'm going to try to give it to you all in 10. So we'll see how that goes. I may not get to everything. I definitely already took a whole bunch out. So just know that this is a little sample, a little appetizer, but it's an example of what one of these meetings might have looked like and the kind of things that we went into in the narrative meetings. So this presentation was one of the first ones that we went over in the narrative group because it is one of those skills that a lot of your game is going to be built off of this foundation of environmental storytelling. So it was really important to me to have this information shared early in the session so that they could let it inform the rest of their choices. So here we have a really great quote that I think kind of sums up the gist of environmental storytelling, which is a well-designed world could tell its story with silence. So environmental storytelling is all about giving the player the tools that they need to interpret the scene and put together the puzzle of what's going on here, where am I? And it's not necessarily hand delivered to the player. So the essence of that really comes down to giving the player the opportunity to feel really smart and clever about figuring out all of these hints that you're dropping for them. So you're using the different elements of your environment to sort of nudge the player towards figuring it out for themselves and dropping all these different puzzle pieces throughout your scene, throughout your game that will add up to the environmental storytelling. But how? How do you drop these hints? How do you leave these puzzle pieces around? So here's a whole lot of words on a slide. I apologize. But what you want to do is set the scene by embedding information in all different places. So a phrase, mise en scene, maybe pronouncing that wrong. I haven't practiced French in a really long time. But that originally referred to stage design. But you're doing a very similar thing in your environmental storytelling in a game by examining things like the lighting or the costuming. All of these things contribute to the narrative. So I included these two pictures here showing two very differently dressed stages. You can imagine that these two stages would show very different shows, right? Whatever type of concert or play or experience they're putting on at these two stages already have two different vibes, even when there's nobody on the stage. So that's the kind of energy that environmental storytellers are doing within games as well. So environmental storytelling really comes down to three big questions. Where am I? What is my relationship to this place? And what happened here? So I'm going to go into what these three questions kind of mean. So the first one is, where am I? That's going to be the very first question that your player asks when they drop into a game. And this where might not be literal. If you're playing a game, for instance, Super Hexagon, the where is really just the middle of the screen, right? You're just a little triangle floating through space. Or in Emily is Away, which is a texting-based game, your where is an AIM client. Still, your player is going to be using clues to put together this, where am I? The second question, what is my relationship to this place, sort of builds upon that. And it can feed directly into the question of, who am I as the player character? Why am I here, basically, is what this question asks your player, or what your player is asking you, really. And you can do this by building context through what's familiar. So, for instance, if I open a game and I start out sitting at a school desk with books in front of me, the player will likely assume that they're a student. Or the player starts a level and they see that they're in a castle and there's a crest everywhere that they recognize as the symbol of the bad guys. The player is going to put that together and figure out that they're in a dangerous place. So this is really one of those like aha moments that you want your player to take those clues that you feed them and help them come to the conclusion of what their relationship is to that place. And then finally, the last question is, what happened here? So what does all that mean? The environment has X, Y, and Z elements, but why? And asking this question and then either answering it very quickly or kind of having that left unanswered for a really long time, that can be really impactful when it comes to the tone of your game. So if you're in like a horror setting where you're seeing like mangled corpses on the floor or something, and you're like, what is going on? And that question just kind of, what's the word? You know, that question is just kind of persisting throughout your first few minutes in the game. That is going to really influence your player's mood and relationship to the game. And let's see. Yeah, so here are some examples of some scenes where you'll see clues of things that have gone terribly wrong, and the player needs to figure out what their relationship is to those things that have gone terribly wrong. And that is sort of similar to this question of, am I alone? So whether or not there's other characters will influence that tone as well. So if a space is fully inhabited with like bustling characters, like Ooblets, for example, that game is going to be very cozy, very sociable. Compare that to The Last of Us, where it's an abandoned place and things are all very run down. You may be alone. Makes you feel a little bit more insecure while you're playing, a little bit more suspenseful. So look at those examples there and think about how these different characters or lack thereof is going to influence your player experience. So that leads me into the kind of final portion of this, which I'm going to try and blast through in 5 minutes, and we'll see what we can do. But different techniques that you might employ in your game to convey these environmental storytelling elements. So staging scenes is kind of the first and I would say most often used one, is creating vignettes that tell a story just by the way that they're framed. So for instance, the Skyrim screenshot here, there's a lot of information that someone can gather just by seeing like a skeleton floating. It's like there's a dead person. Why are they dead? Why are they here? Etc. And it will lead the player to create cause and effect relationships that help them relate themselves to the scene. Another example is optional reading. So this is something that you'll see frequently in games like Metroid Prime, Pokemon, things where you have like a logbook that you can dive into for additional information. And this includes making the conscious choice of like picking up an item and learning about it as a system, which is, you know, you have to have a lot of intentionality around that. But the interesting thing about this technique is that since it's optional and the player can choose what to explore, it's not really absorbed via osmosis like things like vignettes are, because they have to go out of their way to pick up this additional information. Next up, architecture and items. This is a great way to give some flavor about the culture in your game, the characters in your game, and what words, just like the values of the non-player characters, really. So you can see some of the questions up in the right-hand corner of this, of different questions that can be answered through intentionally designing artifacts, architecture, different items that the player can explore. Things like how much the population is interested in comfort. You can see in these two different examples here, a lot more hostile on the right, a little bit more cozy on the left. But by looking at the shapes of these buildings, you can see that, for instance, on the right, there is a lot more value on like aggression and being defensive and protected. Yeah. Similarly, you can have a lot of environmental information conveyed through the clothing and the appearances of your non-player characters. And this, you want to make sure that it's very cohesive with the rest of your environment, because there is a lot of information packed into something like the garment that a character can wear. And with this, I made sure to sort of hammer home the idea of collaborating with the rest of your team to create these characters. For instance, a narrative designer who has all these ideas about the cloaks that their characters might wear, they need to have that conversation with their artists, right? And have it put into documentation that, let's say, this character needs to have a red cloak because he's a high status Rito, right? That's something that needs to be written down, put in writing, so that the character artist who brings that into the game knows exactly what the narrative designer's intent was. Another NPC related one is the behavior and background dialogue. If your non-player character is on a timer, for instance, in Stardew Valley, you can become sort of in tune with different characters' routines. You know that Penny is going to be over by the library at such and such a time on such and such a day. This is going to influence the player's play style if they want to interact with specific characters, but it also builds the flavor of the world. You know Penny is going to be over at the library because she's the one teaching there, right? And that sort of snowballs into all of these implications about the school system there, et cetera. But yeah, even things like how your NPCs interact with each other are all extensions of the environment. In environmental storytelling, your environment isn't just the space around you, but it's all the things that fill it as well. Okay, I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna just flick through the rest of these. You can sort of glance at them, but I won't do a deep dive. I'm also considering posting this slide deck just so y'all can flip through it later. But things like real world connections, audio logs, and foreshadowing are all really impactful environmental storytelling tools as well. Okay, I'm very out of breath. I have like 2 minutes before we have our closing remarks. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or comments on environmental storytelling or Rad Studio mentorship? All right, cool. In that case, I am going to say head on back to the main room because we are going to have some closing statements from the team. Thank you all for being here. Really awesome to see all your lovely faces. And thanks for listening to me talk about environmental storytelling. That was kind of cool. Yeah, I'll see you all in the main room.
What is the main room?
Okay, believe it or not, that's the end. Like this happens every single year. 2 hours goes by really quickly. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for celebrating another year with us. Thank you for just seeing all the cool stuff that we've been up to, for seeing our beautiful Rad Studio cohort that we're so proud of, and we're gonna miss them. Like we hung out with them for 11 weeks this year. So I already missed them. Well, now that we're all here, I just want to say a few more thank yous before we go for realsies. So I want to thank our lovely volunteers tonight. I want to thank Julia, Stephen, and Zainab. If you want to turn your cameras on and wave, maybe in the Zoom room. These are our amazing volunteers. They've been repping Rad Magpie for a long time. They've even occasionally been paid by Rad Magpie too, but today they're volunteering. So thank you so much for that. I want to thank Robin Perla, who's our incredible mentor, who has helped us out so many times and also has been with us since day one. I want to thank Gisela again. She's here in the room. Gisela and the Creative Connections Art Fund was a huge reason why the Rad Studio Scholarship Fund was able to exist this year. Lastly, I want to bring my homies up on stage with me. So I would want, let's start with Grace and Donovan, our amazing production interns. Come on up here, guys. And then let's bring up Maggie and I'm so sad. Megan has moved to Portland. So Megan, picture Megan right here. Maybe Megan, you can put your camera on. Last but not least, I would like to reveal the bird. Maybe you want to take your head off, Birdie?
No.
Birdie's there. All right. This is the bird. Here, this is our bird. This is Alex, who is also our amazing graphic designer. So, and also made this costume from scratch. So anyway, thank you all so much for coming tonight. And yeah, that's it. Yeah. Goodbye. Goodbye. All right.